The garden shears fell from Daniel's trembling hands as he stared at the woman standing before him. 20 years had passed, but he'd recognize those eyes anywhere, the same eyes that had once looked at him with such tenderness, now hardened with resolve. "Hello, Daniel," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "I believe you have a debt to settle. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more emotional journeys that will touch your heart. Your support means everything." Daniel Matthews had built a quiet life in the suburbs of Portland, where the constant drizzle matched the melancholy that had settled in his heart years ago. At 42, his dark hair was now peppered with gray, and the lines around his eyes told stories of both laughter and sorrow. His modest two-story home wasn't much, but the sprawling garden that surrounded it had become his sanctuary, a place where he could lose himself among the roses and forget the mistakes of his past. His 17-year-old daughter, Lily, was the center of his universe. Raising her alone had been the greatest challenge and joy of his life. Her mother had abandoned them when Lily was just a baby, leaving Daniel to navigate the treacherous waters of single parenthood with nothing but determination and love to guide him. That spring morning had begun like any other. Daniel had risen before dawn, prepared Lily's lunch for school, and then retreated to his garden to tend to his beloved plants before heading to his job as a high school English teacher. The garden was coming alive after winter's slumber, daffodils nodding in the gentle breeze, cherry blossoms painting the air with delicate pink petals. He never expected his past to come walking up his garden path in the form of Alexandra Chen, now the formidable CEO of Chen Innovations, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country. The woman whose heart he had broken 2 decades ago when they were just college students with dreams bigger than their experience. "Alexandra," he whispered, her name foreign on his lips after so many years of forced forgetfulness. "What are you doing here?" She stood tall in her tailored charcoal suit, her long black hair swept into an elegant knot at the nape of her neck. Success radiated from her like heat from the sun, making Daniel acutely aware of his worn jeans and dirt-stained t-shirt. "I've been looking for you for a long time, Daniel," she said, her voice betraying no emotion. "And now that I've found you, I'm here to collect what you owe me." Daniel's mind raced through possibilities: money, an apology, revenge. What could she possibly want after all this time? "I don't understand," he stammered. "What could I possibly owe you?" Alexandra's expression softened slightly, revealing a glimpse of the girl he once knew. "The truth, Daniel. You owe me the truth about what happened that night." And then, she paused, her gaze drifting toward his modest home. "You owe me a chance to know my daughter." The world seemed to tilt beneath Daniel's feet. How could she know? He had kept that secret buried so deeply that sometimes he could almost convince himself it wasn't real. But Alexandra's words confirmed his greatest fear: she knew about Lily. "Dad?" Lily's voice called from the back door. "Who are you talking to?" Daniel turned to see his daughter standing on the porch, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her curious eyes, Alexandra's eyes, taking in the scene before her. Alexandra's breath caught audibly. "She has my mother's smile," she whispered, and for the first time, Daniel saw the powerful CEO's composure crack. The story of Daniel and Alexandra began 20 years earlier at Stanford University, where they were both scholarship students with ambitious dreams. Daniel studied literature with hopes of becoming a writer, while Alexandra pursued computer science with a brilliance that intimidated even her professors. Their love had been intense and all-consuming, the kind that burns so brightly it sometimes leaves nothing but ashes in its wake. They had planned a future together: graduation, marriage, careers, and eventually children. But fate had other plans. During their senior year, Alexandra discovered she was pregnant. The news had terrified Daniel, who was already struggling with the recent death of his father and the crushing weight of student debt. In a moment of panic and selfishness that would haunt him for decades, he had suggested she terminate the pregnancy. When she refused, he disappeared from her life, leaving only a cowardly note explaining that he couldn't be the man she needed. What he didn't know was that Alexandra's traditional Chinese parents had disowned her when they learned of her pregnancy. Alone and heartbroken, she had given birth to Lily and made the agonizing decision to give her up for adoption, believing it was the only way to give her child the stable home she deserved. By a twist of fate that seemed too cruel to be coincidence, Daniel's sister and brother-in-law had adopted Lily. When they died in a car accident 5 years later, guardianship of Lily had passed to Daniel, the only living relative. He had recognized his daughter immediately, her features a perfect blend of his and Alexandra's. The guilt had nearly crushed him, but the love he felt for this innocent child had given him the strength to become the father he should have been from the beginning. He had never told Lily the truth about her parentage, allowing her to believe that her birth parents were strangers who had made a difficult but loving choice. Now, standing in his garden with the spring sun warming his face, Daniel realized that his carefully constructed life was about to unravel. The secret he had protected for 17 years stood exposed in the light of day, and he had no idea how to protect his daughter from the pain that would surely follow. "Lily," he called, his voice steadier than he felt, "this is an old friend from college. Alexandra Chen." Lily approached with the easy confidence of youth, extending her hand. "Nice to meet you, Ms. Chen." "Wait, Chen as in Chen Innovations? The company that developed that neural interface everyone's talking about?" Alexandra smiled, taking Lily's hand in both of hers. "The very same. And please, call me Alex. That's so cool. I'm actually doing my senior project on neural interfaces and their potential applications in education." Lily's eyes lit up with excitement. "Dad, why didn't you tell me you knew someone so awesome?" Daniel's throat tightened. "It was a long time ago, sweetheart. Your father and I have a lot of catching up to do," Alexandra said, her eyes never leaving Lily's face. "Perhaps I could take you both to dinner tonight? I'd love to hear about your project." Before Daniel could object, Lily enthusiastically accepted. "That would be amazing. But I'm going to be late for school if I don't leave now. 7 o'clock okay?" As Lily rushed off to catch her bus, Daniel and Alexandra were left alone again, the weight of 2 decades of secrets hanging between them. "Why now?" Daniel finally asked. "After all this time, why come looking for us now?" Alexandra's professional mask slipped further, revealing the vulnerability beneath. "My mother died last month," she said quietly. "Her last words to me were about forgiveness, both giving and receiving it. She never got to meet her granddaughter because of her own pride, and that regret followed her to her grave." She took a deep breath. "I don't want to make the same mistake." Daniel gestured toward the garden bench nestled among the blooming azaleas. "We have a lot to talk about before dinner." As they sat side by side, the years seemed to fall away. Alexandra explained how she had built her company from nothing after graduating, channeling her heartbreak and determination into creating technology that would change the world. She had searched for Lily over the years, but the closed adoption had made it nearly impossible. It wasn't until she hired a new legal team for her company that she discovered the connection. One of her lawyers had handled the adoption case and recognized Daniel's name when Alexandra mentioned him during a rare moment of personal disclosure. "I was angry for so long," she admitted, watching a butterfly dance among the flowers. "I built my entire life around proving that I didn't need you, that Lily and I would be better off without you." Daniel nodded, accepting her anger as his due. "I was a coward," he said simply. "I've spent 17 years trying to make up for it by being the best father I could be to Lily. But she deserves to know the truth about who she is." Alexandra turned to face him, her expression serious. "That's why I'm here, Daniel. Not for revenge or to disrupt your lives. I just want a chance to know my daughter. She's the only family I have left." The dinner that evening at an upscale restaurant downtown was filled with tension that only the adults could feel. Lily, oblivious to the true nature of their reunion, chatted enthusiastically about her school projects and future plans to study bioengineering. I've always been fascinated by how technology can enhance human potential, she explained to Alexandra, who listened with undisguised pride. My dad thinks it's because I read too much science fiction, but I think it's just how my brain works. It's in your DNA, Alexandra said softly, earning a warning glance from Daniel. As the evening progressed, the similarities between mother and daughter became increasingly apparent, the way they both talked with their hands when excited, their analytical approach to problems, even the slight furrow between their brows when concentrating. When Lily excused herself to use the restroom, Daniel leaned across the table. She needs to know, Alex. Tonight. I can't let her keep bonding with you without understanding who you really are. Alexandra nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I've waited 17 years for this moment. I'm terrified. So am I, Daniel admitted. But we owe her the truth. When Lily returned, they asked the waiter for privacy and began the most difficult conversation of their lives. Daniel started by explaining his relationship with Alexandra in college, watching as confusion gave way to understanding on his daughter's face. Lily, he finally said, his voice breaking, Alexandra isn't just my old college girlfriend. She's your biological mother. The silence that followed seemed endless. Lily's eyes darted between them, searching for confirmation of what she'd just heard. And you're my biological father, she said slowly, the pieces falling into place. Not my uncle who adopted me when my real parents died. Daniel nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. Why? Lily asked, the single word laden with 17 years of unasked questions. Why did you give me up? Why did you lie to me? Alexandra reached across the table, stopping just short of touching Lily's hand. I gave you up because I thought it was the best thing for you. I was alone, disowned by my family, abandoned by your father. I wanted you to have stability, love, a real family. And I lied because I was ashamed, Daniel added. When my sister adopted you, I didn't know you were my daughter. But when she died and I became your guardian, I recognized you immediately. I was too cowardly to tell you the truth, that I had abandoned you before you were even born, that I had failed you and your mother so completely. Lily sat perfectly still, absorbing their words. Then, without warning, she stood up. I need some air, she said, her voice eerily calm. Please don't follow me. I need to think. They watched helplessly as she walked out of the restaurant, her shoulders rigid with shock. Should we go after her? Alexandra asked, already reaching for her purse. Daniel shook his head. She needs space. She'll come home when she's ready. She always does. But as the hours passed and midnight approached with no word from Lily, Daniel's confidence began to waver. Calls to her phone went straight to voicemail. Alexandra paced the living room of his small house, her earlier composure completely abandoned. This is my fault, she said, running her hands through her now loose hair. I should have approached this differently. I should have. It's not your fault, Daniel interrupted. It's mine. All of it. From the moment I walked away from you 20 years ago, every bit of pain that followed is on me. The sound of the front door opening silenced them both. Lily stood in the doorway, her eyes red-rimmed but dry. I went to Aunt Sarah's grave, she said quietly. And Uncle Mark's. I needed to talk to them, to ask them why they never told me the truth. She stepped into the living room, dropping her backpack on the floor. But they can't answer me. Only you two can. Daniel and Alexandra exchanged glances, both understanding the gravity of this moment. Ask us anything, Alexandra said. You deserve every answer we can give you. What followed was a night of painful honesty. Lily asked questions that cut to the bone, why Daniel had abandoned them, why Alexandra had given her up instead of fighting to keep her, why neither had searched harder to find each other over the years. As dawn broke over the garden, casting long shadows across the dewy grass, the three of them sat exhausted but somehow lighter on the back porch. I'm still angry, Lily admitted, watching the sunrise. And I don't know how long it will take me to process all of this. But I understand better now. You were both so young, facing impossible choices. Alexandra wiped away a tear. I've missed so much of your life. Birthdays, first steps, first days of school. I can never get those back. No, Lily agreed. But maybe we can start from here. Build something new. Daniel looked between his daughter and the woman he had once loved, perhaps had never stopped loving. Whatever you want, Lily. This is your decision. Lily took a deep breath. I want to know my mother. And I want my father to stop punishing himself for mistakes he made when he was barely more than a kid himself. She reached out, taking one of their hands in each of hers. I want us to try to be some kind of family, whatever that looks like. The months that followed were not easy. Alexandra extended her stay in Portland, renting a house nearby and working remotely to give herself time to build a relationship with Lily. There were difficult days when old resentment surfaced, when the weight of lost years felt too heavy to bear. But there were beautiful moments too, Alexandra helping Lily prepare for her college interviews, Daniel and Alexandra working together to plan Lily's 18th birthday celebration, the three of them planting a new cherry tree in Daniel's garden as a symbol of their fresh start. As summer turned to fall, Alexandra faced a difficult decision. Her company needed her back in San Francisco, but the thought of leaving Lily again, even now that she was heading to college, seemed unbearable. I've been offered a teaching position at Portland State, Daniel told her one evening as they sat in his garden, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Literature and creative writing. I've always wanted to get back to my own writing. Alexandra smiled. That's wonderful, Daniel. You were always so talented. And Lily got accepted to Stanford, he continued. Following in her mother's footsteps. And her father's, Alexandra reminded him. We both went there, remember? Daniel nodded, gathering his courage. What I'm trying to say is that nothing is keeping me in this house anymore. Lily will be gone, starting her own journey. And I've been thinking about new beginnings too. Alexandra's breath caught. What are you saying, Daniel? I'm saying that maybe it's time for me to be brave. To stop running from the past and start building a future. He took her hand, marveling at how right it still felt after all these years. I'm saying that I could look for teaching positions in San Francisco. If you think there might be a place for me there. Tears filled Alexandra's eyes. Are you sure? Your life is here, your garden. Gardens can be replanted, he said simply. Some things are worth uprooting yourself for. 1 year later, Lily came home from Stanford for Thanksgiving break to a new home, a beautiful house on the hills of San Francisco with a garden that, while smaller than the one in Portland, bloomed with the same love and care. Her parents greeted her at the door, their hands intertwined, wedding bands glinting in the California sunshine. Welcome home, sweetheart, Alexandra said, embracing her daughter. Daniel joined the embrace, holding the two women who had given his life meaning. We have so much to be thankful for this year. That evening, as they sat around the dinner table sharing stories and laughter, Lily raised her glass in a toast. To debts repaid, she said, looking between her parents with love. And to second chances. As the sun set over the bay, casting golden light through the windows of their home, Daniel reflected on the strange and winding path that had led them here. 20 years ago, he had made the biggest mistake of his life, running from responsibility and love out of fear. But life had given him a second chance he never deserved, bringing Alexandra back into his life and allowing him to be the father, and now the partner, he should have been all along. Some debts, he realized, could never truly be repaid. But with love, forgiveness, and courage, they could be transformed into something beautiful, a new beginning built on the lessons of the past. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to